went down to old Joe's barroom, out on the corner by the square, sat down on a long white table. My friends and my family were there. Let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. I'll travel the wide world over, and she'll never meet another sweet lover like me. It's a
Okay, welcome to the 98% podcast where we hear real stories from real people. And I'm here with Devin. So, Devin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Devin Scrivner. I am 29 years old. I live in central Missouri. Got a wife, a daughter, a baby on the way, and two dogs and a cat. I've currently got a couple different professions. I'm a co-owner of a trampoline park and a gym, and I speak Sundays at a church as a teaching pastor.
Sweet. Okay, I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. So then how do you know me?
I know you through your parents. I worked with, or for, your father actually, for his construction company, and learned about you through stories that he would tell. And initially, I thought Josh was his only child, and then I'm like, oh, he
Oh
has
yeah.
more kids. And he was like, yeah, Ricky's the better looking one, so you'll have to meet him sometime. And
Did he say that?
yeah, I think he did. We'll say he said that for sure.
Okay, it's fair.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I really do think he said that, but I think it's because Josh was there and he's just trying to give him a hard time. So,
I'm
um,
sure.
but yeah, he was telling me about you, and I finally got to meet you. I can't remember where we first met. I want to say it was at the gym. Yeah, and at that time you were working for a different company, and you were, I think, just working your way up the ranks there. And then the next thing I knew, I had heard from your mom that you were doing this podcast, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. If anyone could do it, I think he could.
Sweet. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember. So yeah, I remember I'm trying to think of the first time I met you too. I remember job site we met a couple times. I don't
That's what it
remember if that
was.
was the first though. Was that the first? Because I remember we were working with. I remember Dennis was there,
Yep.
and I was just helping because he came into somewhere at least somewhere close to Kansas City and was like, "You want to help?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And I want to say I think that might be where is that? Does that sound right to you?
I think so. Yeah. Now that you say that, it was probably a job site, but the first time we actually got to talk not job related things, I think, was at the gym. So yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So then, yeah, it's funny. My dad's never told that to my face, so he was probably just making fun of Josh, by the way.
Yeah.
the,
Well,
the whole good
there you
looking
go.
thing. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if he said that, thank you, Dad. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Shout out, shout out to Rich for giving compliments when the person who deserves it can't hear it. So
Exactly. Yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah.
So we worked. Okay, so we did construction together a
Yep.
couple times, and then one thing that I always thought was interesting about you too is you do music and stuff too. So,
Oh yeah.
um,
Yep.
yeah, how did you get into that?
Boy, I've been singing since I can literally since I can remember. One of the earliest memories that I have of singing was my grandmother before she passed away. I can't remember if we were fishing or what we were doing. I think we were fishing, and she was singing. And I just remember that as a moment where, I try not to read too much into it because now I can look back and put stuff there that's not. But I do
Exactly.
remember it being a
Yep.
moment where I was like, wow, this is really neat. Like being amazed that she's just singing and like there's no one here with her, but she's making this like magical thing happen. Or to me at that moment, it was magical. And so that's like the first memory I have of singing. And then my uncle played guitar when I was a kid and he was super, super good. And I asked him, I don't remember what age, to teach me. And he wrote out on a board, it was like a 1x6, and he had traced his hand on it and numbered the fingers and gave me like, the first four chords that you learn on a guitar, like the G, the
Hmm.
C, the D, and the E minor. And he's like, this should be all you need to learn most songs, and then anything else you can learn from, books or whatever. But if you can't do this, then I'm not going to teach you. And it was like, okay, I went home with that like um, board, and that's how I learned to play what little bit of guitar I can play now. So, and I've been doing it on and off ever since. I've always loved singing. I really learned the guitar because I thought I could be a guitar hero, and I am not very good at guitar at all.
No.
Yeah, I, 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 I say that in reference to the people I know who are super good, people would hear me play and be like, he's good at guitar. But I can play like simple chords, every now and again I'll throw in a complex jazz chord or whatever, but I can't do shredding. I can't hardly play any licks. I can't do any of that stuff. But I can sing. And that's my forte. So that has led me to like playing around the lake area here with my buddy Trevor for a number of years, and we would play for at least 1 or 2 summers, we were playing like every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night at local businesses or whatever events, weddings, private parties here at the lake. So made some decent money during that time. Um, and then that's kind of slowed down now as our families are growing, because that's not something that you really want to do when you've got kiddos, especially our kiddos are like 5 years old now. So being gone every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night is kind of a tough sell.
Yes, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So did you take lessons then? So as far as like vocal lessons?
Choir in school. Yes. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. See, no, I don't wish. I don't know what I wish. Okay, here we go. So you mentioned, so you had lessons from, did you say it was your uncle? Is that what you said? Or who
He's
gave
the
you
one
the
that,
lessons for the guitar?
so he didn't give me, he gave me that board.
The
That was the
board. Okay.
lessons to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
That was
So
it.
you didn't take any lessons other than that?
No. Nope.
Nice. Okay, cool. So yeah, I was self-taught everything and I like it, but also it takes a long time. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I was stubborn, man. I was like a stubborn kid. So like when I first learned guitar, it was like I was like, I don't want to learn from anybody. I don't want to play. Like I just want to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I sat with it, and it was like, dude, it was like 2 years straight of playing before I could even come close to like shredding or doing anything that I thought was cool.
Oh yeah.
And dude, it took it crazy. So like it was 2 years, and I just remember writing songs. I talked to someone about this yesterday. Is I wrote all these songs, and I didn't understand song composition at the time either. So I wrote all these things. It was basically like if you can imagine 10 like really intricate guitar riffs all put into one without any key, without any tempo. Like everything was just all random. That's what it was, and it was
Heck
awful.
yes. Yeah.
It was awful. I mean, you could say it's progressive, but it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because it wasn't until I went to actually church and playing in a youth group where like I started seeing like song composition because like there's kind of a formula to it and kind of how they flow, and it started
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I get it. And it took me it took me quite a few years to get it, but that's my thing is like I play guitar, I sing, play drums, lots of things like that. But I think I did it all just in service of writing songs. I just wanted to write music and songs and just bring everything into fruition. And so I kind of learned through that. But yeah, it was a journey for sure. And I know, and it's crazy too, because people will say basic stuff, but I'm like, hold on, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And
Oh
it's
yeah.
just like, it's funny because I didn't learn. So it's just like you picked up a guitar and you heard me play and you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But if you ask me some like technical questions, I'd be like, hold on, what are you talking about? What?
Oh yeah. Yeah. See, I've got friends like that too. Like Trevor, my buddy, he is like it's hard to describe how well he knows guitar. And one day I was just like messing around and I put just a ridiculous chord shape on the guitar. I'm like, all right, what note would this be? And he's like, G sharp minor flat add 9 or something like that. I was like,
Mhm.
you just made that up. And he's like, no, that's really what it would be. And I'm like, that kind of stuff. It's just like,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I
Dude, I'm the same.
understand like you're saying about like the a little bit of the composition. Like I can follow if someone's giving me like the numbers of like go to the 4, go to the 5, like go to the 6, all that good stuff. But that's from like knowing how little that I actually knew once I started playing out and about. Because if you play out
Mhm.
and about enough, you run into people who play out and about. And then some of the
Mhm.
people that you meet, like they're from Nashville and they actually know music, like for real know music. And then they're
Mhm.
trying to tell you stuff and like, oh yeah, I love when you hit that turnaround to the minor second. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, me too.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, man.
Dude, hey, funny thing is, I feel like it's probably that way for a lot of bands and artists. Because I feel like, I don't know if you do this, but I watch like reaction videos a lot to like songs that I like or little things like that. And people break down people's stuff so technically. And I always wonder if the artist who wrote that actually knew what they're breaking down on a technical
Yeah.
level.
Oh, dude, I just saw a video like this the other day where I can't remember who it was. I think it was the lead singer of Led Zeppelin. It was one of those big rock bands, and someone had did that
Mhm.
to his songs, and his response was, "That's really good. Not at all intentional, but I'm glad you got that out of it." It's like, Yeah, I guess that's it. Rock and roll, right?
Exactly, dude. I guarantee it's probably more like that than we realize too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. People just
That's
messing
funny.
around. I heard I found the demo of Maroon Five's first album, like before it was
Yeah.
produced and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
it's kind of bittersweet because you get to hear more of the what they meant the song to be, I think. So like I think it was She Will Be Loved had no, it was a different one, but one of the songs had a guitar solo in it. Like it was missing the bridge that you heard in the
Hmm.
produced version, and they substituted it with a really pretty guitar solo. And I'm like, dude, the producer robbed us of the guitar solo that guy probably worked really hard on.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole different song. It's got a different feel, and it was cool to hear that and to know that like they did some stuff in there that was never going to make it, but they didn't know
Hmm.
that. And they just wrote it and let it be that thing. And now it's on like this weird, obscure demo track that maybe no one's ever even heard in their life. Like for me, it was a month ago. I'm like, dude, that's crazy.
Dude, I've heard that too. I've heard there's a lot of hands in the pot sometimes on that. And I always wonder if how much of that is like producer and record labels and stuff like that, like actually interfering with the music. I get
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's different for different companies. Like I've heard people like Rick Rubin, like he's very much go with the flow. Like he's
Yep.
worked with a lot of different people, but he's very kind of hands off or just like whatever happens, happens. And let's keep it
Uh-huh.
loose. But then there's a lot of people who want to take and break and mix and master. And there is a whole separate art in that. I don't want to diminish that, but
Hmm.
I kind of fall on the side of you where it's like I feel like it's a little bit of um, interference. It's like watching a football game and the refs are just
Hmm.
too involved, and you're like, that was too hard of a hit.
Hmm.
It's like, well, it is
Yeah.
football. Like that's music. Just let them
Yeah.
do the thing. "Give Me Shelter" by the Rolling Stones is a good example of that happening. When I'm blanking on her name, but when she's singing the chorus over and over again at the end of that song, and her voice breaks, she thought it was going to have to be edited out, and they were like, no, it's perfect. Like that's the
Uh-huh.
emotion that we need in here. So I wish it was more that direction, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I feel that too. Yeah, it's interesting. I do always wonder what some songs would have been like had that not been the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, guess we'll never know.
Yeah, no, we won't.
We won't.
Unless they
It's a
release
fun.
those weird demos, and then we'll find out
Exactly.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. Which how often do they do that?
Crap, when they get really big and they run out of money, so they have to release like a never before seen thing.
Yeah, just to get some hype. Yeah, I dig that.
Bingo.
Okay. Cool. So now what we're gonna do, so Devin, obviously I sent you these questions out earlier, so you had time to look over them. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go through, and then the goal is for you and your story to help hopefully connect with the audience. So
Sure.
we'll start from the beginning, and the beginning is what was growing up like for you?
Awesome. I love that we're 12 minutes in and we're just getting to the the questions. It's so good. I hope it's not that long for all of them, so I apologize if it is. This is the perks of interviewing a pastor. We can roll. Growing up was it was good. I had portions of it that in the moment I thought were bad. Um, but as I say getting older loosely, but as I'm just maturing and going through more life, I'm seeing how those moments have shaped me into the person that I am and allowed me to have the opportunities that I have now. Um,
Mhm.
like one of the things that I struggled and still sometimes struggle with is just being self conscious, just about a lot of things. But one of the things when I was a kid is I had a speech impediment. I couldn't say S's very well. And so I had to go to speech therapy for it. And it made me super cognizant of what I am saying and how it sounds, and um, almost hypercritical of myself.
Mhm.
Um, but that has led to like weird things popping up where, for some reason, people either like or pretend to like listening to me talk. Um, like I worked in radio for a while. I was on a morning radio broadcast, and it was just like the most surreal thing to be like, if I could go back and tell that little kid with the speech impediment in class having to do all these weird tongue exercises to make sure your tongue doesn't get like in the wrong spot and you make all these like whistling and weird sounds with your tongue. If I could tell
Mhm.
that kid like, hey, in who knows how many years that is, but in 20 years, you're actually going to be speaking every morning to thousands of people listening to you on the radio live. I There is no way that I would believe that. Um, so I think it was good. I grew up seeing a little bit of everything. We saw um, like years of plenty and then years of not. We lived in a trailer in Brumley, Missouri, which is population 92, I think, when I left, and that's counting the cows. So it's a very small town, and it was just one of those things where it was the trailer, the yard, our shop, and the woods. But then we had years because my parents owned a construction business where stuff was really, really good, and like Christmas was crazy, and so like I got to have all these like awesome gifts. But then there were other times where I remember we got food stamps, and like we have to go like figure that out, and like mom's embarrassed about um, going to the store, and she doesn't really want to use it, but also we need to use it. So yeah, it was. I think the only word I can describe it as is good, because looking back on it all, I had parents that really cared about me. Didn't do everything right, but I don't think any parent does.
Mhm.
Um, but they did their best, and I think that's kind of all you can ask for in the situations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, that's neat to think about that. Like, so you had both different times. So you had good times, you had struggle times at the same time. Now, what's interesting is the more people I talk to on this podcast, it's fun to look at the struggles and see how they shape people into who they are. And it's
Mm,
fascinating to me always. And it's funny because it's like a 2020 hindsight thing too, I think, where we look back, we're like, oh, I'm glad I did that. The
yeah.
time, I'm sure it sucked during
Yeah.
the time.
Absolutely.
But it's funny how that works. And it's like if we could have that mentality, like just on a daily basis, think like, like this is a tough day today. You know what? This is probably what it's doing for me. Or at least have like that type of perspective, like everything's going to be fine. Like imagine, like that's crazy.
Yeah. I actually, I don't know how much. I guess it doesn't really matter talking about like religion, whatever. But my sermon on Sunday was talking about that. It's a story of Jacob, and his whole life is just a freaking mess. And it's
Hmm.
this point in time where like he is running away, and he's got this tension between him and his uncle, but also between this woman that he's trying to marry, and then gets lied to, and then like they're struggling, and they're
Hmm.
having all of these kids in the mix of it, and it's the birth of the whole nation of Israel. Like the 12
Hmm.
tribes, they're all right there. And what we honed in on was that exact thing. Like in the moment, I bet it just felt like his world was in 1,000 different pieces, falling apart in like
Yeah.
everything, like a level 10 disaster. Nothing is going to work out. And then we trace the line through, and it's like Levi, that kid, that's Moses and Aaron that came out of that. Benjamin, you get Saul the king, and then Saul, who became Paul, who wrote the majority of the New Testament. Judah
Hmm.
is the one who births David, like King David, psalm writer, giant slayer, and becomes the forerunner of Jesus, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And if you, like you said, could be in the moment and say, like, this mess right here is where the good things are happening, I don't have to get on the other side of this mess to realize how good things are working right now. I just have to trust that things are working out at this
Hmm.
moment. I think it'd be a lot better.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that too. So I feel like so you're mentioning like the biblical stuff, and I'm thinking about it. Like I think people overlook the struggles, how important the struggles are in the book, right?
Oh, yeah.
So and because I think so many people I've noticed like they want to avoid it, they want to avoid the struggles, and I'm like
Mm.
think about how terrible a story that would be if if there were no struggles, everything worked out perfectly, everything's great.
Oh, yeah.
Would you read that story?
No,
No, because
no.
it's not real.
That's a fairy tale, is what that is.
Exactly.
That is actually
Yeah.
a fairy tale. Like everything works out and it's all rosy.
Mhm.
No, we actually focused in on Leia, and like she names her sons names in Hebrew that mean like all these horrible things. Like the first one is like, maybe now my husband will notice me, because it said the verse before that that she was hated. Like he hates this wife, loves this other one, and she feels it so heavily that she names her son like, maybe now, maybe that I've given him a son. Like that is awful. If you stop right
Mhm.
there, it's like that is the
Mhm.
worst, one of the worst things I've ever read. He's a terrible husband. This whole thing sucks.
Yeah.
And I talked to a lady afterwards, and she was like, every time I've heard this story, they always try to like clean up what's happening and make Jacob seem like this big
Yeah.
hero. And it's like he is a hero, but he's not a hero because he wasn't a bad person. He's a hero because he trusted while being a terrible person, right? And like
Mhm.
let that play out and like tried to do his best, and somehow it still worked. That's what makes him a hero in the story. It's not like he's not Iron Man. He's the opposite of Iron Man. He sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, geez. That's great. Okay. So growing up, so you talked about the speech impediment. Now, um, as you got older, so did you do sports? Did you have any hobbies growing up? What was that like?
I did sports a little bit. I played baseball when I was really young, and then I played football when I was in middle school and high school. I wasn't very good at it. Like I was one of those kids that grew into my feet before the rest of my body. I actually remember um, I, I thought that the opening scene from the movie I, Robot with Will Smith, where he's
Okay.
walking down the road, it like starts with a ground shot, and I think it's playing Superstitious in the background. And it pans up and you can see him walking down the street in these Converse. And I was like, dude, those are the coolest shoes I've ever seen in my life, right? In my mind, I'm just the coolest thing ever. And I tried them on as a kid who had like size 12 feet before the rest of his body. And I looked like a legitimate circus clown. Like the big
Uh-huh.
white things on the front just looked way too big. And I didn't try those shoes on until like 10 years from that point because I'm like, I'll just never look good in these shoes. But that transitioned to like a lot of sports. I always wanted to play different positions that I really wasn't that good at. So I'm built more like well, in high school, I was built probably more like a wide receiver. I played center on the football team. Like I was the one hiking the ball, which I know the look on your face is exactly the
Yeah.
look I get from every
Interesting.
person that I
Yep.
tell that.
Yep. Yep.
So it just, yeah, I always found myself in a position that wasn't really what you think that I would play and doing an okay job at it. Like I wasn't super good or anything. I wasn't like a star player, but I could hold my own, I guess. Yeah.
Dude,
And as far as
that's
other
sweet.
hobbies, um, playing music, um, especially with my brother. My brother's a percussionist, so we would play together sometimes. Once he got a drum set, I already had a guitar, and it was like we would play together. Also, we played video games, um, both pre and post internet video games. So like we got to see that transition, which was crazy because we played Halo like co-op together before the internet, and then you try to play
Uh-huh.
Halo online and you just get destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah, you just had to be the best of like what, four people
Oh yeah,
when you
yeah,
played
yeah.
co-op.
And it's like some nights it's me versus my brother and his friends. So I'm just like I'm the master of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you realize how much time people actually spend on the
Oh,
on those games.
oh yeah, it's like way too much time. And they're trash talking me like I am a like a prisoner of war. It's like just the weirdest thing.
That's awesome. Okay. So we kind of talked about struggles a little bit, but what's the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
Um, Probably I thought about this one a while because on some in some aspects I don't think I've had like a huge like a lot of life struggles. I don't know. I think I get it from my dad. I always used to hear my dad growing up when we would reference prayer or talk about church related things. The few times we did, um, he was always like, "God has other things, like more important things to worry about than the stuff going on in my life." So I think part of that filters into what I'm about to say. But I think if I had to go back and pinpoint a spot, maybe the hardest time was moving out of my parents' house because I did that before I graduated high school, which was a little bit difficult.
Hmm.
Um, at the time, I was dating my soon to be wife at that point, and it was just like this whole thing where looking back on it, I get it. Like we were both young, and the whole thing seemed like it wasn't maybe going to work out anyway. But it was one of those things where I was given an ultimatum, and it's like if you want to do that, you're going to have to leave. And I left, and I ended up staying at like a person that I worked with at a car wash, his house, which he was super gracious. I can't thank him enough for it because I also, like an idiot, because that's what happens when you're like in high school still, thought it was a great idea while living in his house to take my graduation money and buy a puppy. And so now I have a puppy in his house that he's letting me live in, which, yeah, I'm glad you're laughing because I look back and I'm like, what an idiot and what a jerk. Just, I can't believe it. But that was a trying time. It felt, um, for the first time that I just didn't have really anybody in my corner. You know what I mean? There was this girl I was dating, um, but it was, nights alone. You just sit there and you think like, have I made the right choice? Like I'm in my friend's basement. I'm not even out of high school yet. Have I taken my life to like a weird track where it's going to be off in a wrong direction in who knows how many years? So, um, but yeah, after years of roller coaster and tough conversations and some non-communication between my parents and I, like we all reconciled and everything's good now. But I think that was the hardest. That was the hardest time.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get through that?
Oh shoot. Oh man. Probably 5 or so years, maybe more than 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely sucked. I won't sugarcoat that. There was, you want your family to like be happy that you're doing this other stuff in life, and yeah, I had one person at that time that I could celebrate my victories with, and it was my wife, which has made us super close. And that's another one of
Yeah.
those hindsight things where it's like, I don't think that we would be as close as we are now had that not happened. But man, at that time, it was just like, I wish I had like my tribe of people around me, my people to get in here and be close with me, but I just didn't have that. So,
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that too. I was listening to this study and it made me laugh that they were talking about like what brings couples together, and they said to build a strong bond there has to be some type of emotional connection or emotional event of some type, and it even works in the essence of fear too. So
oh
I
yeah,
can't remember, but the study, I think they were talking about how it was like something that they did like I'll have to look it up, but it was something about being up on a bridge really high and something happened to kind of scare people. And they found out by even having like a scared event, it was able to bring those people close together because it built some form of emotional connection between them, even if it was out of fear.
I
But
like that.
it strengthened it, which is really interesting. So to that point is like having those moments of difficulty, you all were able to have some really good emotional connection in that space.
Yeah, I heard somebody the other day say if you're thinking about marrying somebody, you should go on a trip with them out of the country into a place that neither one of you know. And his reasoning was the exact same. It's like
Yeah.
you're going to be stressed, like you don't know how to drive, you don't know where stuff is, and day one maybe they can fake it, but like days 3 through 5, you're going to really understand who that person is, and you're going to really understand if you connect on that kind of level. So yeah, I get that, and I think it's true. I'm thinking about other people, like couples in my life, who have been through hard things and weathered those storms, and there's just a different kind of connection. There's just a
Uh-huh.
different kind of connection. Like my wife and I, we've been married over a decade now, so still
It's
going
awesome.
strong. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, they say rupture and repair, right? That's what makes a
rupture
good
and
relationship,
repair.
right?
Yeah,
Rupture and repair, right?
like an
So it's
appendix.
exactly, yeah. See, it's the tough things, right? The stuff that like if it ruptures and you don't repair it, I mean that's the end. But if you repair it, you're actually going to be stronger, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Okay, so now what's something you're currently going through?
Um, like in general, I wanted clarification on this question. I read through these, and
Yeah.
then I also feel bad for not having them in front of me because I could just keep going through.
Yeah.
But something I'm going through now. Let me think. That would be navigating being a father.
Hmm.
I've never been a father before, and for portions of my life, my dad wasn't super there. Like I got to see him every other weekend, and sometimes there were larger gaps in between. Um, so navigating that has been, I tell people all the time, it's been the most challenging thing I've ever done because I think it's the most self-reflective thing that I've ever done. I
Uh,
was trying to put this into words to my brother the other day because he um, doesn't really want to have kids, he thinks. And I was trying to put into words to him the importance of having a kid. I was
hmm.
just like, there are things about life that you just think like temporally know, and then you have a
Hmm.
kid, and there's a level of knowing them that you're like, oh crap, this is what all those people are talking about. This is like when they say those stupid cliche things that you're like, yeah, I get it. It's like, no, you feel it at a it's like you're playing 3D chess. Like you feel it at the
Hmm.
next level up of everything. So that is what I'm going through now. And I don't say that as a negative. I just say it as like a every day's an adventure. And like there's this there's this little creature that is half of me and half of my wife. And she is learning stuff and they're so observant and everything is can be like new and fresh to them.
Hmm.
And at the same time, you see reflections of yourself coming out in them
Hmm.
that sometimes you're like, that's super cool. Like I think it's so cute. And then other times you're like, oh, that's me. That's you've seen me act like that, and that is 100% my fault. And so it makes you sit back and be like, there's no other person who can take the blame for this. There's no one I can point to other
Hmm.
than that's on me. So yeah, it has definitely been the most wild thing that I've ever experienced. So
So you mentioned this, and I've talked to a lot of other people with kids too, but um, I've heard like one, it's a big level of self awareness that you gain that you normally don't have when you have a kid. I noticed that for myself. I learned a lot about myself by having a child. But to your point, it's really hard to put into words because I feel like I've met a lot of people that don't want kids, but I know sometime they're going to want kids. Like it's
yeah,
just, it's I don't know because it's pretty innate in us for the most part to have kids, and I don't know. It's just interesting. And I don't know if you've read this, but have you read about the population decline at all?
oh
Have
yeah,
you kept
oh
up on
yeah,
any of that stuff?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
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 Japan's gonna be gone soon.
I know people don't realize that because there's still this narrative I think going around because people aren't researching stuff like, oh, we're overcrowded, we have too many people. We're like, actually, we're not having enough kids to sustain what we have. So now, what is
Yeah,
that going to look like in the future?
yeah.
Nobody
And the
knows.
population's living longer while we're having fewer babies, which means eventually we're just going to have like a super aged population with no one young to do any work. And that is like maybe worst case scenario.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
So so it's funny. The older I get, the more I want more kids, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it's for
Yeah. I
that
think,
fact,
no, I think
but
that
kind
happens to
of.
everybody. I try to
Yeah.
explain that to people. Like, I've never really heard someone have a kid and get to the point in their life where they're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have had any kids. But I've heard a lot of people
Same.
do the opposite, where it's like, didn't have a kid. And then it's like, especially normally ladies, I think, but guys happen
Uh-huh.
to
Yeah.
have the same response where it's like, man, I wish I would have had a kid. But at that time,
Hmm.
it's too late. It actually is too late. So
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
a hard thing to wrestle with.
Yeah. No, it's sad. Because I think too. I don't know if it's a society thing or not, but I feel like people are told that to a certain extent. Like, no, you go work, you go do the things you need to do. You can always have a kid later or whatever. Because I don't know. I'm trying to put two and two together because it's like what, like 50% of the population or women are childless over 30 right now or something like that, which is
Yeah, it's
like unheard of
crazy. Yeah,
statistic.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
No,
wild.
I
So,
mean, I go down like, I could rabbit hole this thing for you if you want, man, because I've got my own theories about this too. I think it's just, we have ripped the magic and the power and the spark out of who women actually are by trying to give them false magic and power and spark. And we've said that that thing comes by having a certain job and making a certain amount of money and doing all these things that men typically did. And like for anyone listening who thinks like, oh, this guy is, he's a misogynist or whatever, I think have whatever profession that you want. If you want to go out and work and do all this stuff, great. Um, I wouldn't fault you for it. I don't think you're a bad person, but I have seen over and over again these stories of women who go and they chase that thing and then they don't feel fulfilled.
mhm.
They don't have, because they think that it's this phrase. It's the, what do you do? And then the person says, I'm just a stay at home mom. Like
Uh-huh.
that's not one of the most
Yeah.
important things that you can do in life. Like you grew another human inside of you. It's insanity.
Yeah.
And I know like other animals do it, but other animals, one, aren't conscious. And it's literally the next generation of people. Like if they don't do that, we don't exist anymore. And
Yeah.
even, take some of the like spiritual underpinnings out of it. It's like, um, survival of the fittest is organisms with a favorable trait. They survive and they reproduce at higher rates.
Hmm.
And so surviving, but not reproducing at a higher rate is by definition a non-favorable trait.
Yep.
So whatever angle you want to come at this, it's like, do you spiritualize it? Do you hyper science this thing? We're not doing the right things. Like I would say
Exactly.
according to most religions, but then I would also say according to science, we're just not doing the proper things. And we're creating this weird, hyper exaggerated caricature of what a human is supposed to be. And then we wonder why it always falls short. It's because we're not doing the things that we should be doing. Like women are supposed, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but are supposed to have kids. Men are supposed to help raise those kids. If we don't do those things as a society, it will collapse.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm glad that you've looked into this stuff too, because I feel the same way. I read this stuff or learn this stuff all the time, and it's fascinating. 'Cause sometimes it feels like an unpopular opinion, but I also think too, maybe it's not unpopular. It's just people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, it's uncomfortable. It's probably the right term.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Because it makes people just grapple with, like, oh, maybe the things that I'm chasing are more selfish than I thought. I wanted to be a doctor for a long time when I was a kid. And then, like, I met my wife and she made me happy. And I realized for the first time that what I really wanted wasn't to be a doctor. I wanted the money that came with being a doctor because I thought a nice car and a nice house and all these nice things were going to make me happy. And as soon
Hmm.
as I figured that out, I was like, that's just a selfish thing,
Yeah,
you know?
and yeah, we don't operate that way, anyways. All that happiness, like chasing happiness, doesn't work.
No, not at all.
I was listening. Yeah, this other study I was looking at was fascinating. Is they were giving people these basically these it was like tests, and then what they were trying to figure out is, they were giving someone something that's really exciting to them, and they'd rate themselves like 1 to 10 how they feel. So some people would, like, something great happened, like, to them, they'd be like, okay, a 10. Something bad happened, they'd say, okay, this is like a 4. And what happened is, even after all that, through this long-term study, they found out that we always kind of navigated back to like a 7. And they
Mm,
said the reason being is, like the phrase of, like, how are you doing today? I'm fine, is actually a normal response,
yeah,
because we're never made to be at that high happiness. That's not how dopamine works. That's not how that stuff works. You tend to fall into like this okay realm. So we're just kind of like, just kind of floating by, and I guess you could say enjoying life to a certain extent, but that's actually a
yeah,
normal thing. We shouldn't be chasing that high all the time, which there are repercussions to that even. But I just thought that was fascinating. 'Cause it's like, oh yeah, like chasing good stuff, you're just going to keep chasing and chasing.
yeah. People want to live at a 10 when really, I mean, if 7 is where they're stuck at, you want to be between 5 and 9. Like you'll
Mhm.
have days that are 9, like when you see
Mhm.
your child born. You're gonna have a lot of days that are 5, maybe even 4. It's like
Yeah.
that's okay too. That's human.
Yeah. That so you listen to, I think I've heard this from my mom. So you look up you listen to Huberman, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay. So he was interviewing, oh, I can't remember her name, but she was the dopamine gal. And she was, I don't know if, I can't remember her name.
Rhonda Patrick.
Possibly. All I know is what they were talking about, where they talk about the pain pleasure center and how it's the same thing, and
Mm,
how your mind is always trying to get to homeostasis, which makes me think of what we just talked about with that study. Is like, for every high that you have, you're going to have an opposite low to help get you back to homeostasis.
yeah.
So which just fascinates me, for the fact that, like, it's like, oh, like, that's why, like, you have a good moment, like, it might suck the next day or might whatever, but guess what? That's normal. Like, your
Yeah.
body's getting to it. And then
Yeah.
they talked about how important it is, if you keep chasing the high, the high, the high, that's how addictions happen. And then it's
Yeah.
also how you can actually ruin your homeostasis level, they said, to where you can get it like below normal. And that's where you have those types of disorders, essentially, which I thought was super fascinating.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time in like a from a spiritual standpoint. You get people who want to like go to a church or have an experience where it's like this spiritual high where they feel like God is like right there and it's super
Uh-huh.
emotional. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like those moments happen, but those are not the norm. And if you're going to a
Yeah.
place that's trying to tell you that that is the norm, it's going to be a
Uh-huh.
really weird experience for you when it doesn't happen and you'll think you're
Yeah.
doing something wrong. If anything, I try to point people to the fact that like one of the most fascinating things that Jesus says that we just like gloss over is like, in this world, you will have trouble. That's a promise of Jesus. And no one puts it on their coffee cup. No one's like, yeah,
Nope.
in this world, I'm
Nope.
going to have trouble. But he did. He said, in this world, you will have trouble. So what does that mean? Expect trouble. It's going to be really hard. But guess what? Like
Hmm.
you'll have those moments, the 7, the 9 moments,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and it helps us stay
Exactly.
regular.
Exactly. Yeah, it's totally normal. I mean, that's why I started this podcast in the first place. That's why we call it the 98% podcast, is because we see the 2% of the exceptional all the time, whether it be positive or negative.
Oh yeah.
And it skews our reality because we think that we have to line up or we have to like, I'm doing something wrong because I'm not there. And it's like, no, no, no. What you're seeing is you're seeing something false. You're seeing what someone wants you to see.
Oh
And
yeah.
guess what? It's social media and news. So you're seeing it all the time because that's entertaining to you, that's et cetera. So it's so fascinating.
It's
I
a hyper curated um, dopamine feed is what it is. You know what I
It's
mean?
exactly right. Exactly
So
right. It's addicting.
yeah.
Okay, so next one. So what is a skill or talent you could share with us?
Um, I the only thing that came to mind was singing. I mean, I've already talked about that one. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You gonna sing us a acapella lick right now?
Oh, share like that. I thought you meant share like
I
say
mean,
what
no,
you
I
can
mean you
do.
you don't have to. You don't have to.
I was like, boy, what could I do that would be like top notch? I don't even know what I would jump into right there. I could do a little bit of something. Let me think about a good one though. You like metal music, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
What kind of metal music?
It's kind of all over the place, but it's always going to be a mixture of cleans. There may be some screaming for emphasis. I don't do as much screaming as I used to as far as listening. Although when I sing, I still do a lot of screaming. Um, just lots of variation. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely can't do any screaming. That is an art form that I for a while I tried to do and I was just like, dude, I don't know how to do this. I don't know the right
Hey,
technique to make it happen. But I do love a lot of those people's voice. I'm trying to think of the guy from is it Memphis Mayfire? Who's the guy the redhead, but he's got a super clean high voice and it's just insane. He is an incredible vocalist. But I would say I'm more like I don't know, pop or jazz vocals. Even some
mhm.
older like blues and jazz stuff is really good. We do a song called St. James Infirmary that has some of the most, I think, beautiful and haunting lyrics. Let me see. I'll just do some of that real quick. Let me think. I went down to old Joe's barroom out on the corner by the square. Sat down on a long white table. My friends and my family were there. Let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. I'll travel the wide world over, and she'll never meet another sweet lover like me. It's a good, it's like from the 1920s, so super old song, but it's got this
Yeah.
like haunting melody behind it. It's just super good. I like it a lot.
Hey, bravo. That was excellent.
Yeah, thanks.
It
Yeah,
was really
it
good.
sounds better with
Yeah.
guitar.
Hey, hey, it was good acapella too. That was
Imagine if
nice.
I just had a guitar near me. That'd be awesome. I wish.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Why didn't you come prepared? You should have had it.
I don't know. There's one up there, but there's no way it's
I'm
tuned.
just,
I was just
no,
looking
I'm just
around at
kidding.
it.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that's cool, man. Yeah. So I can tell. So you mentioned jazz. I can hear kind of
Mhm.
like the jazziness in your voice for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I put that on. It's just like whatever I want to sing. It's hard for me to actually find my voice in songs rather than emulate someone else's singing. Like that's something that
Yeah,
I
that's fair.
struggle with. So, but like if I'm warming up, I love to warm up my vocals with like Sam Smith or what is the lead singer of Panic at the Disco? I can't remember his name, but that type of like high soulful, even some of Adele's lower songs, like that's what I like to stay in that range because I think it sounds prettier up there. I struggle with like the low end stuff there. Like I
Hmm.
was a tenor one in choir, so you know, always sounded like I was a middle schooler when I was a high schooler. So
Yeah. Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. I never even paid attention because I never was trained that way. So I just taught myself everything. So I don't know what I would be classified as. Um, but I don't know. I've just always
baritone's a
tried to do.
safe bet.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I can hear the timbre in your voice, and it sounds like a baritone. Like I bet you could sing low, but you're probably normal to slightly highish range, and that's baritone. That's where a lot of guys fall anyway.
Really? Okay.
And you get those odd
Sweet.
exceptions of people like me who can sing higher, and then people not like me who can sing really low. And
Mhm.
that's a whole other art. And I wish I could do that because that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Sweet. Yeah. I'm just one of those people like I just like seeing what I can do with my
Yeah.
vocals. I don't know if you're like that, but I'm always
Yes.
like that. Like it's like
Yes.
I'll sing to Celine Dion just for fun and see what I
Oh
can
yeah.
do. If I can hit any of those highs, I'll listen to any type of screaming music and try to push it. And I don't know. I just don't like to limit myself. So like, even on the last stuff I recorded over this summer, I was just like, let's just do some different stuff that I haven't done before. So I was
Yeah,
messing
dude.
with like, almost like scream singing, where I'm like just bringing in enough of the scream to get it kind of gravelly, and then just kind of going in and out and seeing what I can do. And dude, it's fun, man. I love just seeing what you can do. Now, if it's good for your voice, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I
you know
mean,
so I know
I
you
think it
can do it
depends.
healthily,
Yes.
but and I know when I've been trained up, I've done I mean, I was doing 2 hour gigs where I was screaming the whole time and it was fine.
Yeah.
But I know these days, because I'm not as practiced up, yeah, it can get a little rough sometimes. But I feel like I have at least pretty good control because I've never injured my voice from that, which is good.
Yeah. I sometimes had to take like a rest day after a long weekend because we were in the thick of it. Those Friday, Saturday, Sundays, we would sometimes play a 4 hour set each day.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, 12 hours of singing in that period of time it's just a lot. It's a lot on the voice.
Yeah.
Also not staying as hydrated as I should have, at that time. But yeah, man, I'm the same way with singing. I like messing around, especially now that it's more of a comfortable thing for me. Like if I'm playing and singing, it's no problem to do. Like that's where I can do the stuff that I wish I could do on guitar. I can do
Hmm.
little like
Yeah.
ad lib and improv stuff vocally, but
Nice.
I can't do it on guitar.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay. So do you here, I want to just throw some artists at you real quick. Do you listen to Sleep Token?
No,
No, have you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Sleep
Okay, that's
Token.
Sleep Token. That's who I've got into the last few months, and I thought I
Okay,
would never get into these guys. You'll see them if you look them up. If you Google them, you'll be like, "Oh snap, this is heavy music," but it will fool you.
I love it.
Um, but yeah, they're kind of like a genreless band,
Okay,
and it's fascinating to me because for the longest time I was just like, "Nah, this ain't me. It's in my style, whatever." And it took me watching their drummer on Drumeo because they never do interviews because they're an anonymous band. Um, so he was on Drumeo, mask and everything. And I realized, like, dude, this guy is actually really freaking good. Like, he's good. He's really
yeah.
good.
Was it one
So I
of
was
those
like, oh,
videos where they have him drum to a song that he's never heard before?
not with this one. With this one,
Oh,
they did a
dude.
special thing, which I hope they did that because I know they record some of those beforehand, and I love that. It's one of my favorite things to
Oh
watch.
yeah, Drumeo's so
Um,
cool.
It is, dude. It's so cool. But what they did with him is, yeah, look it up, Sleep Token. But they did an hour-long session. They just wanted to know him. They're like, hey, they usually don't do interviews, and they just let him play basically throughout different songs and kind of talk about what he was going, like all the stuff. And the cool thing is he was influenced by like worship bands and different types of stuff. So he's got almost like this church feel to his metal playing.
Yeah,
It's super fascinating.
yeah,
So yeah, so you got to check that out. But they're good, and it took me, I think it was like a song or two to listen to after that point, where I was like, you know what, I like this song, and then before you know it, I was hooked. I decided to go on a journey and just like let's listen to the first album, second album, third album, and they're releasing singles for their fourth right now. And dude, I think you might like it. It's fascinating. You never know what you're going to get, and that's like my favorite thing. I hate being able to predict songs.
yes, yeah. Okay, well then I've got one for you. I'll look up Sleep Token.
Okay.
Um, look up Goose, the band Goose.
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 Okay.
My brother introduced me to Goose, and they are phenomenal. They're an
Okay.
American. They call themselves a rock band. I think it is almost one of those genreless band as well. It's like a
Okay.
almost more of a jam band style, but dude, they are so good. The song that comes to mind is Arcadia. Arcadia by Goose is just phenomenal. It was a song I heard and I was like, dang, they're so good. We're gonna see them in June actually because they're amazing. So yeah,
That's
check that
funny.
out.
What's funny is that's actually going to be the name of Sleep Token's new album. It's called Even in Arcadia.
Even in Arcadia, how
What it,
funny.
what are the odds of that? I don't even know what
Uh,
Arcadia. What does Arcadia mean? I don't even know what that means. I haven't Googled
Arcadia
it.
is, I think it's a place in Greece that's supposed to be very beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Sick. Okay, so I'll check out Goose.
I'll check out
And then
Sleep Token.
I have one more I need you to check out because I think
Okay,
you'll love his vocal technique. One of my favorite singers. Have you heard of Leprous?
Leprous. I feel like I have heard of that, but I haven't listened to any that I could name.
Okay. Okay. Listen to Leprous. So they're a prog band. Used to be more prog metal. They're kind of more prog rock now, but their vocalist is talk about highs. He's got really nice highs, sings in falsetto a lot, but he's
Okay.
just like he's got this thing to his voice. Like it's unique sound, but dude, he's excellent. But he does a lot of one takes on his YouTube channel, and it's just like, dang, good job,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. One of those singers that you just watch and you're like, dang, that's just like world class singing. That's how I feel when I watch Adele sing. Like, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
to me, even what you think about her songs. I listen to her
Mm.
voice and I'm just like, geez, that is some, that
Yeah,
is some top level, like world class elite singing. It's just so good.
exactly. Dude, it's fun watching people that are really good at their craft like that.
Yeah.
Um, although it's awful when it's the opposite. Have you ever had someone that you're like on the album they are excellent, and then you see them live and you're like, um, what happened?
Yep. Yep. I'm trying to remember the person that was, oh, it was Motley Crue. Yeah, dude, Motley
Really?
Crue. Yeah, I saw a video of them. And this is, to be fair, this is like a video when he was older. And I know that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way he sings is probably not the best for like an aging musician.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, but dang, listening to him do that at the age he was, I was like, maybe you shouldn't do that anymore. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. I couldn't believe it.
It's dude. Yeah, I've
It
been to
was
some
equal
shows
parts
where
sad and like funny for me because I couldn't help but
yeah,
laugh. It was so awkward and bad that I was just like, wow, if I were there, I'd be laughing too. I'd just be laughing the whole time.
yeah. I've seen groups like that where I just listen. I'm like, man, there's no pitch right now. Like it's all over the place, and I'm like,
Yep.
could it? And then I was given the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe it's the venue, maybe it's
Yeah.
this, but they might really just not have it.
Yeah. Or you'll hear, like another thing I dislike is when people do their either studio takes or whatever it is, they do them at a different key than they play the live songs. Like they
Mm.
lower them a bunch, which I get. Maybe like sometimes the voice is tired and it's like, I understand that. But I've seen some where it seems like every one of their songs they record in, D, and then they sing them in C or lower. And so it's like, why are we trying to like reach up there when that's not something that you can do
Yeah.
here, or it's going to cause, you know what I mean? It even changes the way some of the harmonies sound sometimes, or there's just a different feel when you're putting your whole self into a song, singing it way up there, and then you lower it down. So I don't know. That sometimes irks me as well. Hear somebody do it
Yeah.
live, and it sounds like a whole different song. Man, it's not what I wanted.
Yeah. I haven't experienced that yet, which I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah, because your ear hears it, and it's like it is the right song, but it just sounds wrong.
Yeah. Makes
Yeah.
sense, especially if you're used to singing it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So now what's something you're learning about currently that you want to teach us?
Oh gosh, that I want to teach you.
Hmm.
Jeez. Um, Universal restoration. Yeah,
Okay. Explain.
yeah. So there is a really old idea in the Christian scriptures that what Jesus did was not just save some people; he saved all people.
Hmm.
Right, and this has been taken in the modern era normally to mean like everybody gets a free pass into heaven, which gets a lot of people like, well, that doesn't sound fair because where's the justice in that? Um,
Hmm.
and that's not at all really what most people, especially the early church fathers, meant by it. They meant that every, like scripture says, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. Um, Paul says, like in Adam, all have sinned. So in Christ, all will be made new. The idea being that you are going to be reconciled to God because he is so good that it is actually irresistible. Right. And so some people are reconciled to God on this side of eternity and some people on the other side of eternity, which clashes with a lot of people's belief about the afterlife. I think there's some pretty good evidence to show that some of the ideas of hell were one influenced by medieval and pre-medieval thinkers that just it became
Uh-huh.
the zeitgeist of what it was. Um, and then secondarily, it was used as a means of power and control for people.
Hmm.
All that to say, I think that there is a hell. A lot of universalists don't think there is a hell at all. They just think hell is like a concept or whatever. I think there is a hell, but I think the hell of um, like the universal restoration angle is the same fire of God that is the Holy Spirit in the New
Uh-huh.
Testament is the fire of God that inhabits hell. So it is not a destroying fire, it is a refining fire. This is where Paul talks about in some of his letters. Some people are going to be saved, but like just as someone snatched from the flames, like their whole life was built on these false assumptions and bad premises and all of this stuff. And in the end, that's all burned away because that it doesn't matter. But they are saved because they like are still a children or a child that God loves, and He's going to reconcile them back, and they'll realize, it's better to live, or it's better to this is better, I guess is the only way to say it. The church fathers had a lot of other long and mystical words for it, but yeah, that Christ will be all in all at the end of time. There's not a single thing that he's not redeeming. There's not a piece or portion of humanity or the earth or anything that he is not bringing back to himself because that's how big and how good he is. And to me, that is um, definitionally good news, what we call the gospel.
Hmm.
Yeah, most people hear gospel, and what you actually hear is bad news with a little bit of a silver lining. Like you're a really bad person. God really wants to kill you, really needs to kill you. And luckily, Jesus stepped in, and that doesn't have to happen. And they just had a whole different way of viewing it. Like imagine trying to live with a star on the surface of the earth. Like it would all be burned up. That's what it's like trying to live with a holy God. But as far back as the Old Testament, he created ways for us to come near to him and constantly bent and lowered himself down to us to make a way to us, culminating in Jesus. And the idea is that he wins. He won, he is winning, and he will win. Yeah.
Nice. I like that perspective
Yeah.
because I've had a similar thought because it's like the older I get, the more I look into stuff and the more like I just realize also too that we really don't know. Like nobody knows what's actually going to happen
Mm.
at afterwards. Like it's all just, what we read or how we interpret it.
Yep.
But I've talked to so many people that they seem so sure of it. I don't know. And the more I learned, the more I've been thinking like, why is there a hell? Why would there even be a hell? Like I don't
Mm.
like it doesn't quite process to me why it would even exist to a certain extent. So I
Yeah.
like
Well, I
your
mean,
viewpoint on it.
the even the wording of hell, like the Jesus actually talked about hell more than any other person. But
Uh-huh.
what he was
Yeah.
referencing normally was Gehenna, which was the valley of Gehinnom, which laid in the south of Jerusalem, which is where they took all their waste and their refuse,
Yeah.
and it continually burned.
Uh-huh.
And so if you think about it like that, he's looking at his people and being like, do you want your life to look like that? Like, do you want to get to the end of your life and realize that you built everything up for no reason?
Uh-huh.
Or do you want to
Yeah.
live for the proper motives and reasons and like let love filter through all this thing? Because that will make your house built on what he called the firm foundation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think it, what's weird to me? The number one objection that I get when I tell people about this is, well, if that's true, why would I go to church? Or why would I be a Christian? Or why would I? And in my mind, I'm like,
That's the
are
first
you
thing.
are you listening to the what I just said?
That's
Did you not just hear what I said? He, it's like he made a way and is continuing to make a way, and your response to that is like, sweet, got to freaking get out of jail free card. So I'm just gonna like screw up my life. It's like no, that would by default put your life in the spot that he said you don't want that. You would
Mhm.
get to the end of your life and be so sad if you were wrong about this.
Yeah.
You may be able to hear my cat.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's fascinating. Yeah, because I feel like I've seen people manipulate people in that way to be afraid of hell, right?
Mm.
And what I don't like is I also don't like the fact that when I see people like when they only do good things because that'll get them into heaven, or they're not going to do bad things because I don't know. I have this concept of like, what if you did things just unconditionally, like regardless of what happens afterwards? Like, what if you just like you actually cared about people and you love people, not because that's your ticket into heaven essentially,
Yeah.
but because you actually genuinely are a good person and care about people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I mean, from I don't know, the Christian understanding, at least for the church fathers that believed that, was
Mhm.
it is not your way into heaven. It is, you can experience heaven now. Right? That's another
Yes.
misconception about
Heaven on earth,
Christianity.
right?
People, yeah, Jesus'
Exactly.
whole
Yeah.
prayer, we call it the Lord's Prayer. He says, let your will be done on earth, which is like right now, as it is in
Uh-huh.
heaven. He didn't say, like, spare me over until I get to see you one day, Father. Like, that wasn't his thing.
Hmm.
He's like, no, this is like, oh, geez, my cat is like trying to rub her face up against this. Um, Heaven is an ever present reality that can be tapped into, if you want to say, or like
Hmm.
ushered in. It can be brought about by the way you interact with your fellow human
Uh-huh.
beings. And the way that you do that is, like you said, it's unconditional love.
Hmm.
So if you can unconditionally love people, you can live in heaven now on earth
Hmm.
at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. So I think too, one thing that's fascinating is a perspective that I like to think about is because it gets back to like the heaven on earth thing is what if, and this is hypothetically speaking, is like, what if this is all we have at the end of the day? What if this is it? Like, what if the concept is that like you are tasked right now with either making this place a heaven or making it a hell, essentially. And I don't know, and it's an interesting concept. Like but it's just something to think about. Like even on
Yeah,
that level, if you weren't even to think about that in general, like I don't know, I don't know. It's a fascinating thing that I think about sometimes.
absolutely. No, I mean, that's, if nothing else, as just like a thought experiment,
Yeah.
that's a really good question. Like, how are you
Uh-huh.
living your life right now,
Hmm.
and what ends would yours be the best? Another thing I hear about that is like, isn't that just, are you leaning into that because that's what you want? Um, and one of the things that started like turning my heart away from the idea of hell was that I actually want hell, which is a weird thing to say, but like there are some people that when I think about, I'm like, yeah, that person, I would rather them be in hell. And that is not a loving response on my part, right? That
Hmm.
is not something where I want to look at people and say like it would be better if they're in that place. That actually seems like an ungodly response.
Yeah, it does.
That seems like God's heart is not in that space.
Hmm.
And so then it just cascades backwards where it's like, okay, this idea of hell, if we have made it into something that we want it to be rather than something that it is, that's a way more terrifying thought. Because God, I don't think wants people to come to him out of just fear and, like you said, a ticket away from one other place.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. That's not love. That's not love.
Exactly. Yeah.
If
Exactly.
there was a parent that was doing that to their kid, you wouldn't be like, "Wow, they really love their parents." Like that wouldn't be love. So I
Nope.
don't know. Yeah, you're supposed to love God with all your heart, with all your
Yeah.
soul, with all your mind, all your strength. You're not supposed to fear God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind,
Hmm.
with all your strength. So yeah, I think it has some serious um, weaknesses in the premise of it, but I think it is quite the uphill battle
Hmm.
um, because it is so deeply ingrained in especially Western Christianity. You can hear pieces of it in Catholic catechisms and
Hmm.
stuff. You'll hear, especially purgatory, like flirts with the idea that purgatory is this place where you go, and like some people make it out, and it's like, well, if some people, maybe all people, and they're like, we don't really want to talk about it. And then the Eastern Orthodox go even further, where it's like in some of their
Yeah.
writings, they're just like, yeah, we kind of are hoping that he's going to restore all things because it seems like that, but we don't really want to say that. So yeah, because that would take power away from some of the monarchs and oligarchs that are over there too. So it's just this whole complicated power structure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that you think about this stuff because I put a lot of thought into this because I think
Oh.
we should. I think we should question. I think we should think stuff. I think that's part of the process.
Oh yeah.
So so one thing I want to ask you real quick, just following up, like what are we trying to restore?
Well, what are we trying to restore?
Yeah. So if we
Um,
think about it, if we're
yeah.
I,
We,
I'm
we're
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a good question because on the one hand, it's like it has already. This is where, man, we're really going to get into the weeds, but it's okay. It's okay.
That's what we
So
do here.
yeah. So there. Have you ever heard of geometric unity?
No, explain it to
Okay.
me.
It's a. Oh, geez. I couldn't hardly explain it to myself.
Okay.
It is an idea that is trying to bridge the gap between, um, like the quantum mechanics and general relativity of the universe, and trying to
Mm-hmm.
bridge that gap with like some really complex equations. But one of the things that it insists upon, or the mathematics of it insists that there are extra dimensional spaces, right?
Okay.
So in some calculations, it's like 7, and some it's 16 dimensions. So we're talking about like things that are outside of height, width, depth, time. Um, and then it also plays with the idea that the universe or space time itself is an observer, which is nearly an inherently Christian idea. Because if God the Father is not a, I'm so sorry to be doing all this. If God the Father is not a person, like he doesn't have physical characteristics,
Mm-hmm.
and he's outside time and space, then he could be what we call time and space itself, right? And this is just an idea. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I'm full send
Mm-hmm.
on that, but the way they talk about
No.
it is that time and space could be creating itself through the process of observing itself, and the math checks
Mm-hmm.
out. Um, but that means there's more dimensions to it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if that is the case, I think it fits the bill with what we think of God being an extra dimensional being. He would have to be. He'd have to be outside time, space, like everything that we know, to be able to step in and do the things that he does. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but all of that, just pause there for a second. The way he, in the Genesis story, created everything was that it was created and it was all good, right? Before what we call the fall, everything was good. He created plants, animals, and they were living in harmony. It doesn't say they weren't interacting or weren't self-sustaining off one another, but it was all good. It wasn't all perfect. It was all good.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems throughout the entire narrative arc of the Bible, what they're constantly trying to do is get back to that Eden ideal where everything is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to restore, I think the answer would be a two-part. One, it's already been restored,
Okay.
but it has been restored. It has been restored in a dimension that is only partially accessible to us.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is what we would call heaven. And that's why heaven can be obtained now, but it's also a place that we would say people go um, because it is the space that God inhabits. So we are trying to create this ideal, and we can get glimpses of it here, but we see, like Paul says, we see only dimly, like we're looking through a dark mirror. It's obscured to us,
Mm-hmm.
but we can still see it. You see it sometimes in that strange feeling you get when you see a sunrise, or like you're looking at the ocean, or you're those weird moments that just hit you. Some people call it synchronicity, whatever it may be. There's moments where
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
glimpse the otherness of the world, and you just know inherently. Sometimes based off your senses, sometimes based off maybe these primordial senses that have been dulled down due to how we've become as a society, but that there is something that exists outside of what we are currently living. So in that realm, it has already been done by Jesus. He reestablished the ability for us to see and interact with that Eden ideal. So I would say that we're living to restore as much of that as we can while we have time. So wherever I can make things around me interact with harmony and love and peace, as far as it's in my power, that should be what I'm doing. And the theory being, if everyone did this, we could maybe create heaven on earth, like not from our own doing,
Mm-hmm.
but because it has been open to us. It is available.
Gotcha. I like
Yeah,
that theory.
yeah,
That's good. That's
yeah.
good.
I mean,
Okay.
it takes some workings, but I know the math checks out. I know the scriptures are there to back it up. Um, and it's just it's one of those weird things where there are some other religions that are a little bit older, but they don't have the idea that God worked his way to us, and that it's just an open possibility. It's just a choice that you have to make every single moment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's also something unique about the inherent um, personalness of that portion of God. So he is like, there isn't a part of the story except for the very beginning where his spirit is hovering above the waters and like creating stuff, where his
Mm-hmm.
spirit is acting devoid of humanity. it works in and through and by and with humanity the rest of the entire story. Um,
Hmm.
like for example, Nirvana. Nirvana is a transcendence away from humanity almost. Like you transcend your family, you transcend yourself even. Like it's a removal of
Hmm.
self. The story in Christianity is the exact opposite. You immerse yourself in what is around you, accepting where and how it is, but doing everything in your power to change it for the absolute best that you can. And by doing that, you'll see glimpses of what people would say are miracles. You'll see heaven on earth every now and again.
Hmm.
You can't manifest it. You can't really give it a rationalizing because there is no thing that you do that's going to for sure make a miracle happen. But every now and again, you will see it, and you still do see it every now and again. You see weird spontaneous remissions of cancer. You see people living when they shouldn't. It's just like it's odd, and it happens. And I think it's just a little glimpse of heaven on earth, just in those little fractal moments. And the fractal expands whenever you die, and after you are through the experience of refinement, and you see God, you get to see the pattern from start to finish, and you get to just live eternity with Him because of what Jesus did. I want to make that very clear. You don't just get to do that. Jesus made a way.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Thank you for the lesson.
Yeah.
See, I like asking, I like asking questions like that. I think it's good. I think, yeah, it's good for us to think about stuff like that and to ponder and to, yeah, I think too, I think part of belief is figuring that out for yourself, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I've thought about people like this before that just, they believe something because they just always have, right? It's like my parents believe that, yada, yada. And I just always think like, well, how do you actually believe it unless you've really pondered or wrestled with the idea of maybe it not existing or wrestled with the idea of things being wrong? And I think
Yeah.
there's power in that. So I think more people need to think that way of like let's think outside the box.
You
I
just
don't
you just hit the prime word for me that I try to tell people all the time. You need to wrestle with it. And the name
know.
Israel literally means the people who wrestle with God. The people that
Yeah.
God chooses in the whole story to call, hey, these are my people, are the ones who are willing to wrestle with this whole thing that we're
Hmm.
talking about. So yes, do wrestle. Even if you're listening to this and you disagree with me, go wrestle and wrestle with all your might because I think God loves that.
I think so too. And I
Yeah.
think at the end of it, you find out exactly what you believe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I dig that. Okay. So now what are you doing for fun?
Oh, mainly chasing my daughter around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, she's great. Watching some Netflix shows with my wife. She loves those. Every now and again I'll hop on and play some Fortnite with her and with a couple of buddies online, and that's always a blast. But yeah, mainly trying to keep up with that little one who's always wanting me to chase her and tickle her and, play all the monster roles that I can. So,
That's awesome. So
yeah.
what's she into right now?
Let me think. Moana 2.
Yep.
Yeah, she's
Isn't
into
it funny how
Moana too.
kids crack me up? It's like whatever's popular, like whatever is the now is like their favorite. Like
Yeah.
Rachel's going through the same thing. It's like Moana 2. Like I love Moana 2. It's like my favorite. And I'm sure next week when something new comes out, you know what? That's my favorite. And it's just funny how kids' minds are just like we don't have time to think about the past. Like this is exciting. This is my favorite.
Yeah, and you know what? I was actually happy about the Moana 2 thing because my daughter for a while there really liked Frozen, and I think Elsa is just a really terrible example of a person. Like I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but like she is just
uh,
awful. Like she is like hiding her feelings because her parents told her to, and then runs away and almost destroys an entire city because of her self obsession and not being able to forgive and just like understand the problem. It's a wild movie. I look at that and I'm like, if you're going to pretend to be one of these princesses, I think Moana is a clear winner. Like she's
yeah.
embracing adventure. She's trying to save her
Yeah.
whole village. Like she's doing the right stuff. So
Love that. Okay. Cool. So we've shared a lot today. So what this part, this is one of my favorite parts, is so if you could start from the beginning, so when you were born to now, and if you were to write a book or a story or a chapter, what would that story be called?
I would probably call it stumbling in the right direction.
Okay. Okay. Why?
Um, because there has been effort put in on my part, but a lot of times the stumbling has also been largely due to me, and somehow we've managed to go the right direction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I think there's power in continuing to move forward, and that a lot of people's lives hit a weird place whenever they just choose to accept and like this is who I am, and everything stays the same from here, and this is my story. But if you can keep moving forward, I think you can stumble in the right direction, and I think there's power in that.
Okay. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Okay, so we have two questions left. So this part is just for you to, share anything that maybe we didn't talk about yet, or to promote anything that you want to promote. So this is kind of like your window to talk about you, your social, your businesses, whatever you want. This is kind of your time.
Cool. I don't really have a lot to promote about me. Um, I'm trying to get a book written, but that is who knows how long in the horizon. My social medias are pretty inactive. I would say um, read. I would say specifically read scripture, and I mean like Judeo-Christian scripture. Read other scripture too.
Uh-huh.
I've read the Quran. I've read some of the Vedas. Like it's good to let your mind get wrapped into the wisdom of prior centuries and millennia. It's just, I think, good for us.
Uh-huh.
Um, learn about history as much as you can, and then, for the love of God, put away your phone as often as you
Uh-huh.
can.
Yep.
that's that's the advice I want to give to everybody. Like the less time you can spend on your phone, the better.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I dig that. You're not wrong. The the phone that it's funny because it has its pros, but man, it does it have its cons, and I don't think
Oh
most
yeah,
people realize it, or even maybe they do. I think a lot of people know that being on the phone a lot is not good, but I don't think people have the impulse control
yeah.
to be able to deal with it. Yeah,
I think it's like smoking, except less regulated. Like we all
yeah,
know smoking is bad, but it's like some people still do it, and it's like, either I like smoking or I smoke every now and again, and it's okay. We just let
hmm
anybody have a phone, and dude, the
uh-huh.
way it hijacks your nervous system and your dopamine and your
Yep.
brain, it's just it's wild. I don't think we've ever created something this powerful. I think it's our new brick from the Tower of Babel story. Like they made a brick and then they said we can build a tower up to heaven, and the phone is our new brick, and we're going to do with the phone whatever we think is building a tower up to heaven, and it's going to end up in a bad spot in the near future.
Yeah. What do you think that is?
Man, I have no idea. Probably if I had to guess, a strange dissociation, like a mass dissociative state, is I think what it's going to end
Mhm.
up in, where we are
Yeah.
we're just so removed from who we actually are and putting on these weird faces that we don't interact the proper way anymore. We don't see each other as humans anymore. We just we stop in effect really being the humans that we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It like short circuits some programming in our brain that gets us, I think, to falsely believe that we are becoming the people that we want to be. When one, we're not actually becoming those people, and two, it's not even who we want to be. It's just who we think we want to be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
yeah.
And I think we've seen some of that already. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I think about how people we don't socialize very well anymore. A lot of people don't, and
yeah,
it's like that's a skill you have to learn by talking to people.
yeah.
you know, you don't talk to people. Of course, it's going to be different, and to that point too. I mean, with the feed, we were talking about that too. Like if we're seeing constant negativity on our feed or constant whatever, I mean, it makes people a little afraid to interact with people because everybody thinks their neighbor is a criminal of some type or something,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And it's
oh
like
yeah.
it's like no, like look around. Like the odds of you running into someone like that very slim. I mean, maybe
Absolutely.
it happens, but I don't know. It's just interesting to me.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It's like we are conflating ideas that should be like very very specifically put out. I don't know. I think it was a comedian I was hearing the other day, and he was saying something along the lines of, you know, there's some people who are so wrapped up in social media that they see a Trump sign and they think Nazi, and they see a Biden or like other Democrat sign and they think pedophile, and it's like, where do you go? Where does
Hmm.
that person go? How do they inhabit life where it's like half of this country is Nazis and the other half are pedophiles? What am I supposed to do? Like you can't exist
Hmm.
in that kind of environment. You
Yeah.
can't live when you think everything is out to get you. And like you said, the vast majority of people aren't. There's obviously odd, weird exceptions where psychopaths exist. I mean, as a
Yeah.
percentage, they do, but the majority of people are like you and me. They just want to sit down and talk and share weird ideas about universalism, and you have to listen to
Exactly. Exactly. I love that.
them.
Okay. So this is the last part of the podcast. This is one of my favorite things we do. So what we do is we have each guest create a question for the next guest. So what you're going to do is you're going to answer a question that I didn't give you from the previous guest, and then you get to create one for the next one.
Okay,
So this question is, what's the biggest life lesson you've learned to sculpt yourself into who you are today?
I'm sure there's a good name for it, like some real fancy scientific name for it. Um, but the type of mindfulness that sees the present moment as a soon to be past, if that makes sense. Like everything that you're going through will soon become a past moment. And when you look back on your past, most people can see like some sort of good thread tracing or guiding their way through this thing we call life.
Mhm.
Um, but in the moment, it is super hard to realize that like this is going to the old saying like this too shall pass, and it
Mhm.
really will. It really will. Whether it's a season or a day or even just a mood that you're in, knowing that I'm going to look back on this in a day or a week or a couple years and be like, either I don't remember it because it wasn't important or it
Mhm.
shaped me into who I am. So, yeah, I think that's it. We spend so much time thinking about the future that we forget to be in the present, and then it slips away into the past without us really realizing that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I dig that. Now, what question you want to leave the next guest?
If you could put one sentence on every billboard in the world, what would it say?
Hey, what would your billboard say?
It would say, take a breath and look around because you're loved and you need to love people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so I'm not going to answer that because I don't know if you know this, but I do special episodes where I answer all the guest questions. So I'm going to
Oh, I
save it
know.
for that. But oh
Nice.
yes, so yeah, so every 10 episodes. So I think this is episode 38. So in two more episodes, I'll gather all the questions and I will answer that very question.
I love it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what else you got? Anything else you want to share before we close down the convo?
I don't. Well, I don't really think so. I'm glad you're doing this podcast. That's what I want to say.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're
Thank you.
highlighting
Yeah.
the normal people of the world. It's easy to live in a world where it's like I have to be either like Elon Musk or David Goggins or a weird combination of the two, and I'm just Devin. Or what
Yeah.
do they say in the? I haven't seen it, but I've heard it from the Barbie movie. I'm just Ken, right? It's like I feel like that's where most people are. I'm just me. But
Yeah.
it's just like the stay at home mom. It's not just there are people in your life that need you and I'm sure love you, and you've got something to do while you're here. So do it because the 98% matter. I would say more than the 2%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like that. No, thank you. And yeah, I appreciate you being on the podcast. So I love having guests on here, and I love you guys just being open enough to share your stories and open up about that. Because to that point, man, it's something we don't see these days. We see surface of everything, and I think when we can get to know people, I mean, honestly, the world will be a better place if we do get to know each other.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it takes other
cool.
people to see the world for what it truly is.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Devin. And we'll do this again sometime. And I think what we need to do is we need to We need to get together and play guitar sometime.
That sounds
We
good.
need to
I'll
jam
bring
out.
some sort of like cork board with pins and a bunch of red thread, and I can show you this theory that I'm talking about.
Yes, let's do let's do it. And then I'll just ask questions. I'll question it the whole time.
Yeah, do it. Do
So
it.
then you can make sure that you're sound in your
That's right.
theory.
Airtight, baby.
Dude, hey, that's like my favorite role to play. I play devil's advocate all the time, and it's actually out of curiosity. It's never from a place of like,
Yeah.
let me try to prove you wrong. It's literally like because like, whoa, tell me more about that, or like, wait, what about this? And it's like the
Yeah.
most fascinating thing.
No, I
So
can
yeah, I'll
tell even
totally,
from the way that you ask
yeah,
questions that it's a genuine. I don't know. I didn't sense or like feel any
yeah,
condescension or like I think that's stupid. It was
yeah,
just like, okay, well, what does that mean for this? And it's like they're
mhm,
good questions. I like you. I
yeah.
think we need to talk more about it. I think it needs to happen.
Agreed. Okay, sweet. Well, Devin, thank you for being on the podcast, and I'll catch you later. Okay.
Yeah. Have a good one.